Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 195 of the new series of the Cognitive Podcast. Wow, how the time flies by. I'm almost up to where I had to stop doing the old series. I think I was at like 220 or something. And sure, you say, but Gemma, that's 25 weeks away. Trust me, it'll fly. We'll be laughing about this in March. Well, what a week. First of all, I want to just start out by saying, yes, last week that was a fan in the background. Those of you who noticed it, I'm sorry. Those of you who used to listen to the old series probably thought you were back in the Prius of love with me. But the rest of you were wondering, hey, Gemma, what's that horrible, annoying noise in the background? And I was going to re-record it, to be honest. And I ran out of time because last week was just kind of crazy busy, and this week is shaping up much the same. So I'm trying to sit very still, hold the recorder very still, and no fan, but we do have air conditioning. So I'm not over here, boiling myself to death for the sake of you listeners. I know you're all glad to hear that. Meanwhile, your comments are welcome. And you can comment on the blog at Cognitive Podcast, K before the NIT, .blogspot.com. Or you can go to our group on Ravelry. There is not much going on. And the minute I say that, the episode runs long. But really, if you've seen the show notes, they haven't changed a whole lot. So warm thanks to everybody signing up for CFRX. Really very pleased about that. We're up to 25. I think 2 of them haven't paid, and the other 23 have. And I'm not doing the math on that, but I'm thinking that gets us pretty close to paying off the conference room, which is nice. So if we make it to 50, hopefully we're doing some refunds because I don't have to buy goodie bags this week, although one person is actually sending us stuff. She's sending us sample cards of her yarns, which I think is very cool. But otherwise, I don't think we're doing anything else in the goodie bags, as I mentioned last week. In the meantime, if you were wondering about last week's strategy, because you didn't last that long, I'll be happy to try to remember to repeat it when I get to this week's. However, all the stuff about CFR 10 is pretty much the same this week. You can find 2 different links in the notes that will take you to the information threads, singular, on Ravelry. And in the first entry, you can see all the information I have. When I get new information, I go back to the info thread on Ravelry in our group for the podcast. I go back to entry number 1 and I edit it. So that one entry does keep getting updated. In the meantime, if you're still interested, $30, you PayPal it to me, and the address is in the show note. And yes, feel free to tell your friends. It's very exciting. We're at open admission. Anybody who wants to come at this point, just contact me and pay. In the meantime, you can find the link in the show notes to book your room at the group rate, which is very nice for us. And you can find the links for the available group projects. Now, I want to point out, as I've said before, that Oink Pigments is going to be bringing Tunisian hooks for us, I believe. And in the meantime, the various projects, we have a free pattern for a basic granny square from Pearl Soho. And we have a free pattern from Yarnspirations for the crossbody bag, which hopefully we're going to have a class on. Yes, Ariane, thank you for signing up. She's our teacher. So those support that. Now, to be clear, for the crossbody bag itself, you need a regular hook. I use an eye hook. And if I look, I will see that an eye is a 5.5 millimeter. I have the conversion chart right there in the notes to make it handy for me because I get lame about this. Okay, so for the granny square pattern that you're using, you make 4 of them to make the bag. That's an eye hook, a standard hook. But to make the strap, one way to do it is to use Tunisian. And so you could get a hook from Oink at the retreat. And then you can use Potchke's class to learn how to do that. And there's also a really good video attached to my notes in Ravelry. And that video comes straight to us from Carmen T, who brought the bags last year. Whew. All right, meanwhile, if you want to wooble, you need a size 4.0 alias a G hook and size 4 yarn. By the way, also the granny square pattern, that's also size 4 worsted weight yarn. Okay, but if you're going to wooble, that's a G hook, and you're using size 4 yarn, and I do have listed in the show notes the free patterns for that, for a penguin or a chick. And those will basically teach you everything you need to know about woobling. After that, you're on your own. And then there's our popular one for sock yarn or fingering weight yarn, since we do have a mini skein exchange, and that is Abba's Sock Yarn Cowl. Also, later in this set of show notes, I list a bunch of links, and in the links you will find other patterns from last year for fingering weight as well. So don't limit yourself. If you want to work in fingering weight yarn, bring a D as in dog hook. And we're going to have the mini skein exchange, so you should have plenty of fuel for this. We're also doing the yarn exchange table. That's separate from the mini skein, and that's all sizes of yarn. You just put it on the table. Who wants it can take it. And after the end of this, I'm going to either give it to charity or I'm going to see if Jasmine wants to take it for the group she runs for kids in Northern California. I don't care. We'll find a use for it, believe me. But at any rate, so we will also have some different weights of yarn at the free yarn exchange table. At the yarn exchange table, you can trade yarn with people, or you can just leave yarn for people to take, or you can browse around and exchange. I don't care how you do it. But this is the free yarn exchange table. I would prefer you not be selling at that table. If you normally are a vendor, and we have not included you among the vendors, you should probably talk to me if you want to vend. And I don't care what you're vending, soap, beads, I just don't care. But you should talk to me before the event because I'm always interested in what a vendor can bring to the table. Meanwhile, you will see in the notes there are links for all these free patterns, information on the hooks. And again, these are crochet because this is generally a sort of crochet your own souvenir kind of experience. Meanwhile, you might be saying, what's on your hooks and needles, Gemma? Well, if you're hearing a little chiming noise, that is actually a fire alert application, but it's not near me. Yay. Okay, so what's on my hooks and needles? First of all, I had a kit. I keep getting the little wooble kits for the mini animals because I actually think they're a good buy and they're fun. And, you know, for somewhere between $5 and $7, you get the pattern and then you get everything you need except a hook and the tapestry needle to finish it. So I'm happy with that because I've got a billion stitch markers and hooks and tapestry needles from the Woobles, let me tell you at this point. But there is the mini Bacon the Pig. And they make it a piggy bank, which I think is kind of stupid. So I didn't. So it's just a little piglet sitting there looking happy. I also did Fiona the Hedgehog. And this is a new pattern. I am not kidding you. I don't know how we got this so quickly, but this came out, I think, on Thursday. And then somebody said, hey, you've helped me a lot. Do you want this free pattern? Well, you know what I said. So yes, I made Fiona instead of Fitz. I made Fiona the Hedgehog. And she's hacked. I didn't have all their instructions. I will say the sewing instructions were not up to the usual standard of the Woobles. But she was a lot of fun because what she is a basic plain beige cone-shaped, like pine cone-shaped body. And then you knit this blanket in a darker brown and you sew the blanket on. And the knobs on the blanket, we had a lot of contention in my group on Reddit. What are those things? All sorts of guesses. None of us got it right. They are In the American terminology, they are double, treble crochet. That is, for a half double in American, you wrap the yarn around the hook once before you insert it. For a double in America, you wrap it around once, but you pull it through twice. For a treble in America, you wrap it around the hook twice. For a double treble in America, you wrap it around the hook 3 times. Brits, I have no idea what you call this stitch. That's why I'm sorry. Or Brits are people from, the old empire. I have no idea what to call it for you, and I apologize for that. But meanwhile, there she is, Fiona the Hedgehog. I made Fiona, and somebody said to me, that could be an armadillo. And I said, yeah, it could. I thought of that too, but I thought, why not make it a possum? Because if you don't add that blanket with the knobs on it, I think it reminded me of a possum. So I hacked it and I made Pearl the Possum. So she's there too. And I have to admit, I was totally guessing on her tail. She is mostly the plain hedgehog body with a few little mods, like 2 extra rows at the very tip of the nose and changing the color. But when I got to the place where you're down to 8 single crochets and you're supposed to just tie it off, I didn't. I kept going, changed color, and made a tail. And then I just improvised the tail. So it's a little bit wacky, but it came out great. It came out curling, which is what a prehensile tail should do. So I'm pretty happy with Pearl the Possum. Somebody tried to buy the pattern from me thinking it was a Wooble. And they thought it was a Wooble's pattern. I'm very complimented by that. Meanwhile, in progress, Stash Toss is still at 25 in versus 47 out because I'm just using these giant skeins of acrylic yarn to make these things. But the board silly socks, honestly, I thought I was going to have the second sock finished by today, but I didn't. But the second sock, I'm on the toe of the foot, and then I will do the heel, and it will be finished. So hopefully next episode. I'm loving the board silly socks because it's really fun to get back to knitting again. But I'm not going to sit down and really dedicate myself to finishing vestuary till I really have time off. I'm a little too stressed on the weekends still. I'm running out of energy for my job. I really am getting burned out. I really need that week off. It's coming. I'll make it. No pity here. So no work on the lakeside, no work on vestuary, no real spinning. So let's get to the strategy. Now, last week, the strategy was about not comparing yourself, in case you couldn't hear me. And it was very simple. When we are little humans, we learn by role modeling. Okay? And so that's why we have heroes. That's why we have coaches. We have people who inspire us emotionally, and they demonstrate the desired action. Okay? That's the simplest view of role modeling. And we do it from the minute we start trying to learn to talk. We imitate our parents from birth. They make faces at us, and newborns even will make the face back if they can. So that's how we do it. However, you can torture yourself with this. You can look at a role model who's more advanced than you in a skill and punish yourself, and that's a mistake. So that's what I was talking about last week is please. It's one thing to use role modeling. It is not really fair and a little bit absurd and self-damaging if you take a prospective role model or mentor or coach and you compare yourself in such a way that you prove to yourself that you'll never do what they do or you can't achieve it or you're not as good as them. Okay, that was last week, but I wanted to say it in case you gave up on last week's episode. So the strategy today, I have to admit it's very much related to the politics this week. And without going too far into it, I'm pretty happy about how things are going. And I was talking to various people this week among my patients, not about the politics, but it really struck me that all of their moods lightened this week, including the people who may not have been happy with what went on in the Democratic Party this week. Everybody's mood shifted towards the positive. I thought that was really interesting. Now, first off, at least where I'm living, we don't have the major heat wave. However, some of you have been dealing with tropical storm alias Hurricane Debbie over on the East Coast. So, yeah. Or Tornado Debbie in some cases, I just heard today. Okay. And yet there was this increased positivity. And it really made me realize that the thing I'm always saying in therapy is true. there is no being or force outside your head that is making you go negative, or for that matter, positive. So my patients say things all the time like, the depression just grabbed me, or I can't help it. And the answer is, all right, there is a point of no return, I grant you, where you need medication. Let's not be idiots. And if you need meds for depression or bipolar, for the love of heaven, take them. I'm not telling you to give that up. But good old Aaron Beck, one of the guys who created cognitive behavioral therapy, demonstrated that even psychotic people respond to hope. That if you give them a purpose to their lives, no matter how actively delusional they are, they improve. They begin to be more reality-based, less fearful, less overtly delusional. Now, Beck was among the first to say, no, they need meds, that this is a biological problem and it has to be medicated. You just have to be real about that. So please don't hear me saying don't take your meds. But if you're medicated properly and you can't get to the hope, then first of all, you need to talk to your doc to see if you're medicated properly. But secondly, you have to realize that at some moment, every human has to learn to take hold of what's going on in their head and redirect it. And for my money, this is the great truth of the religions that practice meditation, that they've figured this out, that in Buddhism they say you're never going to control your body if you don't take control of your mind. Hinduism, they say the opposite. You're never going to control your mind if you don't control your body. Now, as a lifelong athlete myself, I'm here to tell you they're equally true, because when I am running, I am controlling my body, and that automatically puts my thinking into a good channel, or it will focus me. It's meditative. So I'm running trail for a reason. I could run flat, but if I run flat, my thoughts wander. If I run hills in a trail, I have to focus so that I don't fall on my face, and it becomes meditation. That is, focus on one thing to the exclusion of all else. So the idea here is you must work on controlling your mind. There isn't going to be a magic pill that you no longer have any problems with your thinking. Well, there is. It's called LSD. I mean, in other words, you have to be pretty stoned to get to that place, but people have bad trips on hallucinogenic drugs as well. Take it from me. I mean, I haven't done it. I mean, take it from me as a psychologist. I know everybody just sort of gasped right there. I really haven't. This is one place I haven't gone. However, the point is, there isn't a psychotropic medication being routinely prescribed day by day by any of our clinicians that is going to magically give you happy thoughts. You have to control your thoughts. What is the drug doing? The medication is giving you a chance. It's subduing the physical aspects of the illness so that you have a chance to control your thoughts. And this is why, whenever you're doing CogB, radical acceptance is so key. That there's this very hard moment when you're working on yourself where you have to stop yourself and say, I'm unhappy. Why? What am I doing that contributes to my own unhappiness? And often it's what you're thinking. And you have to say to yourself, I am going to change that thought. And let me explain to you that biologically you fight that urge. Because when you're giving yourself the bad thought, you are giving yourself dopamine, because that's a problem. And humans get dopamine from trying to solve even a problem they know to be unsolvable. Remember, your brain gives you dopamine in a moment like that, but your body starts pumping poisons. That's the problem. So you're going to have to fight to change your thinking in the beginning. Now, I will tell you, having practiced this for years now, this gets much easier over time. But in the beginning, this is the common refrain from my patients. It's hard. I can't do it. That doesn't work for me. Maybe that works for other people. Okay. All I can tell you is no matter what medication you have to take over your thoughts. You have to start thinking in a different way to heal yourself. And so this is where the hope comes in. That what you're telling yourself about inside your head is going to determine your mood. And it's going to determine, am I hopeless or am I hopeful? So I'm going to try not to go into politics, but it's really hard because that's been a huge part of it this week, for me, at least, and for a lot of my patients, to be honest. But the idea is, if there is an overwhelming mood of hopelessness, as we've had in America for the last few months, so you're always hearing negative things. Candidates attack each other, say negative things about each other. That promotes negativity in you. You feel like there's no hope outside of you. You start to believe there should be no hope inside of you. The real trick is to be able to say, despite the hopelessness outside, I insist on hoping. That is hard work. Every human has to learn to do that to survive, and many of us don't. That's all I can tell you. And yeah, is that unfair? Is that fair? Do we have different abilities? Yeah. There's such a thing as resilience. We don't all have the same amount. Some people are not naturally depressed. Some people are born with the genes for depression or various other illnesses that will lead to depression. Like most diabetics get depressed when they're first diagnosed. Okay, so yeah, this isn't a fair game. I'm not pretending there's fairness here. If I'm talking to you and you have all these disabilities, I must sound like the Sugar Plum Fairy or something. No, I'm not. And believe me, I work with that population quite often. All I'm saying is, no matter where you are on the spectrum of ability, sooner or later, if you want to shed the painful mood and thinking, you have to find a way to grab hold and take hope. And it's a difficult process. It starts with recognizing I feel bad and then saying I will work to change it. And you won't get as much success as you want in the beginning. If you're anything like me, it can be a process of months to get this skill. This isn't the easiest skill, but I promise you, when you can start doing this, you start to feel hope. You start to move forward. Also, I have to remind you that one of the best ways to do this is to be around the people who lift you up. This is what your family and your friends are meant for. And one of the things I hear in therapy all the time, but I don't have any friends and my family is dead. Yeah, this is why social media is so successful, because it makes you feel like you have friends. But I would say you need to get out and among people, because we know physical closeness enhances the ability to experience well-being, that we can't get it from online. We've had plenty of chances with quarantine to do that experiment. So you do need to start getting out and trying to meet people, or at least in the very beginning, trying to be with people and eventually working up the nerve. So the strategy really is you have the ability to create hope and well-being in yourself, but this is all in your head. There's no external thing that's going to make this happen for you. Now, medication will help if you're at that point, yes. Medication just gives you a sense that you can do this. You still are going to have to do it. All right, and meanwhile, and I'll shoot. I'm in week 7, and now I've added a 4th calendar. So I'm running on 4 calendars. In one of them, I'm in week 1. And this is another extinct program that I still have on my phone called Bridge to 10K. Bridge to 10K is meant to be, when you can run a 5K, this gets you to a 10K. And this one went extinct. It's from the same company as my other extinct program. And it's a little too aggressive in my humble opinion. However, I'm in week 1, and that's equivalent to week 6 of the other extinct program. But I'm in week 7 on all my other programs. And the reason is I wanted to slow my increasing down a little bit. My 5K program ends at the end of week 8. So I'm probably about 10 days away from doing a straight out 30-minute run, which I'm really looking forward to. I did a 27 earlier in the week. I'm really feeling ready for that. And this morning I did 4 10-minute runs with 1 minute between them. And I felt great. It was really not a lot of effort. It felt really wonderful. So I got excited about the races, and you can see the banners for the races that I'm going to run this year. And there's probably going to be at least one more next year if I keep the impetus going, which I'm hoping I will. Now, the Be the Light and the Monster Dash I'm running as 5Ks because those are really boring courses. My first 10K will be the Santa Clarita Marathon 10. I'm really looking forward to it. In the fluffy books, I am slowly enjoying the last chapters of India Holton's An Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love. And I just got the latest one in the Sebastian Sincere series of Regency detective novels. And I want to say that's C.S. or C.R. Harris. Anyway, those are really great. They're very addictive. Something I really like, nothing really this week. So I just posted the voter protection hotlines again because I'm kind of excited by this week's politics. Put a lid on it. Well, I am laying low and eating cold, but over and over again I've had requests for the Ketorade recipe. I could not find it in the old notes. I know it's back there in the 170s. So it's true, I took a screenshot of somebody else who posted it. This is Clean Keto with Gigi, and she gives Ken Berry's recipe, which is the one I use. So it's in there. On the blather, well, the dogs are indoors a lot, but we are not currently in a heat wave. We're hovering around 100 degrees. I don't know why. A few years ago, we used to be at about 115 at this part of the year, but the last few years have cooled a little bit at this part of the year, but warmed up in the winter. Not so good. So we didn't get snow this year, for example. But at any rate, this has been really great for my morning runs. I now gave up and set an alarm for 5 a.m. Yesterday I slept through it because I was just tired. And I run like an old lady, which is to say, if I wake up at 5 and I go, oh, I don't feel like it, turn off the alarm, I roll over, and I go back to sleep. But anyway, in the pup date, the girl dogs and Minerva are happy, and they're spending a lot of time indoors. Minerva is not spending time with me in the study, which is very disheartening. I have to see patients without her. This probably has led to me creating more woobles to pretend that I have company, but I don't. It's all in my head, which sounds like a recent strategy, if you ask me. At any rate, the community resources. Now, if you go to the books I've used, a knit crochet library on the Ravelry group, I believe that's where I have links for patterns I used last year as free patterns for the mini skein trade. So if you want to use fingering weight yarn, there's a whole bunch of freebies, and I think it's in that link. It could be in the skills and techniques link that comes right below it. And there's also a link for my favorite resources to buy to support my fiber habits. There's also a link to my link tree. 2 of those links say Woobs. They're currently out of commission. I have to go edit that. But at any rate, there's my link tree if you ever wanted to see it. On the calendar, I have the usual suspects. Yarnopolis, Second Saturday Stitchers, the Sit and Stitch group at the Joanne Darcy Library, and the SCV Craft Exchange. These are all groups on Facebook, but if you're in my region, you can go to any of their meetings and have a good day. Meanwhile, on the calendar, I realized I should put in my races. So I have Labor Day, and that's off for that whole week through September 9th. And then on September 21st, I have and then on September 21st, I have the Be the Light 5K. On September 28th, 1 week later, we have CFRX, CFR 10. And there's yet another information link there, but it will be at the Courtyard by Marriott in Valencia. And of course, some of us will be getting there Friday the 27th to hang out together. And then on the 29th, even though it's not the official event, we will have the breakfast where we all go out together, the brunch, and we break down what worked and what didn't. In the meantime, I have the Monster Dash, another 5K, on October 26th, which I'm rather pleased about. And then I have the 10K at the Santa Clarita Marathon on November 10th. November 28th through December 1st, I have another 4 days off for Thanksgiving. And then Romuel, the last week of December going into January. Wow, this one's going fast, isn't it? So Minerva gets the last word. And Minerva gave you a picture of one of her favorite Japanese icons. It is the lucky cat. This is a cat that is usually portrayed smiling with its eyes closed and one paw raised. This one is crocheted, and I really like to crochet this critter. I'm really thinking I should find one of these and try to make it because it's really cute. But anyway, there is the happy cat, and that is a Japanese token of blessing and good luck. You often see it outside or inside the front door of Japanese restaurants. And Minerva is saying with the happy cat that she would like to send you her love, and her wish is that you will keep hoping. And whatever you do, vote. And if you want to see Minerva hoping and looking happy, you can see a picture of her being brushed, and she's just in ecstasy. So Minerva hopes every day that she will get brushed. She gets in my lap and begs for it shamelessly. But she's sending you the happy cat, so you will also feel hope this week. And for one thing, whatever you're feeling, please, for heaven's sake, go vote. Meanwhile, remember, if you need any vaccines before CFRX, please get them. And I'm getting mine. I'm feeling recovered finally from my COVID shot. That one really kind of shocked me. It was really painful for about 3 days. And I was really exhausted. So you know what I'm going to do next, right? I'm going to go get a flu shot. And after that, an RSV shot. But the idea is I don't want anybody to get sick at CFRX, and I don't want to be the cause of anybody getting sick. By the way, I'd like not to get sick. Remember, we are a community. And when we protect the community, we are protecting our individual selves and our rights. So with that in mind, everybody stay hopeful. And everybody remember to stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.